What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Tavern Talk. This is the last episode of Tavern Talk for 2021. So naturally, this is going to be my top 10 favorite films of the year. A lot of good stuff this year, despite, everything that's going on, despite the change in the distribution of movies, the viewing of movies, whether it be in a theater experience, at home, wherever you're finding your movies these days, there is no shortage of content, that is for sure. We have a surplus of everything, and so there is a lot of good stuff to be discovered, to be seen, and but we're just going to go ahead and just jump into that top 10. So for 2021, my number 10 movie of the year, the one that I put up there, is Spider-Man No Way Home. I've seen it twice now on the big screen, and I can't wait to see it again. I really enjoyed it. It's still just a couple weeks after release when we're shooting this, so I'm not going to go into spoilers or anything. But as someone who has loved the character since he was a kid and who has loved the different iterations of the character on the big screen, this was just a real joy to watch. I wish John Watts' direction was a little more versatile, a little more. I just wish it wasn't as flat, especially in the third act. I know a lot of this just has to do with the train that is Marvel Studios and how they keep it moving and keep pumping things out as consistently and as frequently as possible. But yeah, I wish the direction would been a little more singular and the vision a little more his own. But just as far as crowd-pleasing entertainment, this is one of those theater experiences I won't soon forget. And so really, really enjoyed Spider-Man No Way Home. Can't wait to see it again. And I just feel like I would be remiss if I didn't put it in my top 10 for 2021. So that is number 10. We'll go ahead and move on to number 9. Number 9 is a movie called Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. This stars Kristen Wiig and Annie Mamulo. They co-wrote this together. They co-wrote Bridesmaids together. Came out earlier this year, mostly on VOD, but I wish I would have seen this in a theater. I remember seeing the trailer for this in front of the Jumanji sequel, at the end of 2019, and it was hilarious, and I've been looking forward to it ever since. But this is just an absurdist comedy. It's just... It's absurd, but it's also really funny. They play it really straight, no matter how ridiculous it is. It has really great songs. A lot of people are talking about Belfast being the front runner for Best Picture. And if you enjoyed Jamie Dornan singing in that movie, you should certainly check out Barb and Star, because I think his singing performance in this one is actually better than in the movie that will be, an Oscar winner. But yeah, it's just really great. I miss comedies on the big screen. I miss comedies in general. Those movies that are being made, those comedies that are being made, are kind of being shifted to Netflix rather than on the big screen. But Barb and Star was one of those kind of big event feeling comedies that also kind of delivered on the promise of that. And so yeah, number 9 is Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. If you haven't seen it, certainly check it out. I really enjoyed it. It's number 9 on my list. Number 8 is maybe the movie that was the one to see on the big screen, and I made sure to see it on the biggest screen possible the first time I saw it, and you can check out our review for it. It is Dune, Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's novel. On first viewing, and like I said, you can see in our review, I was kind of not cold on it or not iffy on it, but I was just kind of like, that was great. I appreciate the accomplishment that it was. I appreciate how visually stunning it is. I've loved all of Denis Villeneuve's work on that level alone, but I wasn't familiar with the story or the series of novels or anything like that. I had no real preconceived notions of what I was getting into here, and so the story was kind of distant to me emotionally, and that was a little disappointing, despite how bowled over I was by the visuals and just everything else about it. The sound, the score, all of it is just top notch. But then I didn't really get that feeling within that, this movie had moved me in a way that would compel me to add it to my end of the year list. But this was one of those movies you were lucky enough, if you have a subscription at HBO Max, you could watch it at home. And so I did that, and on second viewing, the story elements started to fall into place a lot more. And so I really came to appreciate the whole of what Dune was and what it was doing and how well it told this very complex story. Not only is it great to look at, not only does it have a cast that is really game for this type of material and really good with this kind of material, and just the more I thought about it, the more I appreciated it, enjoyed it, and realized that this is one of those movies that I would also be upset if in years to come I failed to put it on my top 10. So number 8 is Dune. Number 7 is the latest from Guillermo del Toro. It is Nightmare Alley. I'm really upset we didn't get a chance to do a full review for this on the channel yet, or this year. Maybe at some point we'll be able to discuss it. But I, again, had not seen the original 1940s movie that this was based on, nor had I read the novel that movie was originally based on. So I kind of went into this not knowing much more than it was a Guillermo del Toro movie, and that it kind of had something to do with like circus folks, traveling circus, and which is always an enticing world. It starred Bradley Cooper in the lead, but it also had a fantastic supporting cast in Cate Blanchett. You have Willem Dafoe, Ron Perlman, Rooney Mara, and Toni Collette. And not just because of the cast or because of how beautiful Del Toro's movies are, which this one is pretty breathtaking. If it's still playing at a theater near you, please go see it on a big screen. It certainly deserves that because it is kind of tanking box office wise. But it is in the vein of Del Toro's other movies. This is a very dark movie about a man who is kind of dealing with his demons, who isn't like the greatest person, but is trying to do what he can with the gifts he's been given, and how those gifts go from being able to do something positive in the world to him taking advantage of them for his own personal gain, and eventually his greed and lust and all this kind of stuff. And it's just really well done. It's a 2.5-hour movie, but it's really well paced, and I just felt like it paid off really, really well. The set design, sound design in this is also stellar. Another reason to see it on the biggest screen you can. But yeah, just really, really loved. This one took me by surprise. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, but really, really adored Nightmare Alley. So if you have a chance to see it, please check it out. Let's go ahead and jump into number 6 next. Number 6 is the first of 2 Westerns actually on my list, and this is one that you can see on Netflix right now. It is called The Harder They Fall, and this has another stellar ensemble. You've got Jonathan Majors, Regina King, Idris Elba, Delroy Lindo, Zazie Beetz, Lakeith Stanfield, RJ Cyler, and it was directed by a guy named James Samuel. He also makes music as well as directs films. And this, you can tell because the way this integrates music into it, it is almost Tarantino-esque in its tone, but it's just really cool. Like, it's just a really cool movie. And if you appreciate the difference in like the era of music that came out matched with a different era in which the movie is taking place, and the combination of those two, the image and the sound in a kind of strange way, it's just really neat. And again, just a cool movie because like some of the shots in this even are things I'd never seen before, and it's your standard revenge kind of tale Western, but it is, I don't know how to, I just felt like while I was watching it that this was like one of the coolest movies I'd seen in a long time. And yeah, you can watch it on Netflix right now. It's called The Harder They Fall. Certainly check it out if you haven't already. At number 5 is what was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, so thankfully it paid off. Again, this was another movie you could stream on HBO Max as soon as it was released in theaters, but I was able to see it in a theater, and I'm certainly glad I chose to do that because I'm really hoping this is the movie that Will Smith wins his Oscar for. Number 5, I have King Richard. If you've heard of this movie, you know it is the story of Venus and Serena Williams and their father, Richard Williams, and their whole family as they try to train and shepherd these 2 young girls into the pros, into tennis pros, which is a traditionally white upper-class sport. And it's kind of how Richard's just determination and resilience broke them into that and led to them being, 2 of the greatest tennis players the world has ever seen. It's one of those movies we don't get a lot of anymore either, because it is, kind of your big budget, star-driven sports drama. And while it does kind of take a It's not about tennis. That isn't the central thing that this is following or tracking, or that the story is about. It's not about who wins a match at the end or anything like that. It's more about the characters that are at play around this sport. It still feels like kind of a throwback of a movie. And I just, from beginning to end, again, it's another movie that is a little long. It's, just shy of 2.5 hours maybe. But I was engaged the entire way through, and was just kind of floored by what everybody was doing, how they were doing it. A lot of people aren't talking about John Bernthal in this movie, but thoroughly enjoyed his performance, as well as Anjanou Ellis, who is playing Will Smith's wife in the movie. And then you have the two girls playing Venus and Serena Williams as well, Demi Singleton and Sanaya Sidney. Another movie, just a strong year for ensemble casts across the board, and this one is no exception. Number 5 for me this year, King Richard. If you haven't already, definitely check it out. At number 4, I have my second Western. It is a smaller movie called Old Henry. Stars Tim Blake Nelson. Stephen Dorff is in it as well. Trace Adkins, a name you probably didn't expect to hear on anybody's top 10 list. But this is a very small, kind of a micro-budgeted movie. It's almost a single location movie. But again, like The Harder They Fall, the other Western on this list, it's just a cool movie. It's nice to see Tim Blake Nelson kind of get a spot to shine. If you've seen him in some of the Coen Brothers movies over the years, he's not just a talented guy, obviously, but really charismatic in his own unique, singular way. And that really gets to shine through in this movie, because he always kind of has been that guy that's a little underestimated, a little undervalued, despite what he brings to every movie he appears in. And putting him in the lead here is definitely a strategic move, and really, really just enjoyed his performance, as well as what he gets to do in this movie. Also, for a smaller budgeted movie, this looks really great. It is directed by a guy named Pazzi Panzarelli, which I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but I had not seen any of his previous films. I'm not even sure if he's directed a feature before. He might have, but this is certainly something that will put him on the map, I hope, and I look forward to seeing more from him in the future, as I really enjoyed Old Henry. If you haven't seen it, haven't heard of it, certainly seek it out. I think it's on Blu-ray, DVD, VOD, all that good stuff now, so you can find it really easily and rent it, but definitely wholeheartedly recommend Old Henry. All right, so let's get into my top 3. Here we go. Number 3, another movie that came out fairly recently. You can see it now on Netflix. It is called Don't Look Up. It is the latest from Adam McKay, and again, another crazy ensemble. It is led by Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. You can see me talk about it in our full review with Mr. Keith Garlington of Keith and the Movies in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, so be sure to check that out. We had a great discussion about it, but this is just one of those movies. It's been pretty divisive, actually, now since it's premiered on Netflix. I was eager to see what the kind of critical and public response to it would be, and it feels like it's been pretty divided. Maybe not so much as Matrix Resurrections, but there's definitely been a split in people who like it, who don't think it's funny at all and expected a comedy, who don't just think it's too on the nose, all kinds of different things. But I laughed a lot. I thought it was really funny. I thought it's on the nose, but I think given what it's satirizing, I think it had to be, and kind of had to be, not necessarily go to another extreme, but be just truthful enough and just ridiculous enough to make us believe that it could actually happen. And I think it did its job. I think it also lands emotionally where it wants to at the conclusion. And again, I just really enjoyed a lot of the performances in this. DiCaprio is, one of my favorites, and certainly shows up and plays this kind of anxiety-ridden astronomer. And Jonah Hill walks away with a lot of the scenes he's in. Meryl Streep plays the president, and she's Meryl Streep. And I'm a big Adam McKay fan, and expected to like this because it seems like the first one he's done where he's kind of combined his prestige filmmaking with his more absurd filmmaking, like that he did with Will Ferrell when he first started out. So this kind of fulfilled all my expectations, blasted past a couple of them, and I think I don't know that I would have regretted not putting this on my list in a couple years, but I think in 10 to 15, 20 years even, we'll look back on this movie and it will be, if nothing else, a very interesting relic of this time period, and it'll be fascinating to see what people who are being born now and in 20 years discover this movie that is satirizing the current everything, really. It's a great, great satire, and I really, really loved it. So number 3 on my list this year is Don't Look Up. Number 2, another film that played in theaters and that you can see now on Netflix is Tick, Tick, Boom. This is the directorial debut of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Guy's been a busy guy this year, with In the Heights, which would have been in my top 15. He had Vivo on Netflix as well, and then Encanto, that is in theaters and on Disney Plus now. Another great movie, great year for animated movies between Encanto and Raya and the Last Dragon, and another one we'll talk about here in a minute. But number 2, Tick, Tick, Boom. This is a adaptation of a stage play written by Jonathan Larson. Jonathan Larson is the guy who wrote Rent, but tragically passed away the night before the first preview showing of Rent. And, he was in his 30s and was just like this struggling artist. And that's what this is the story of. Tick, Tick, Boom, the songs are, I don't know that I could say they stayed with me, but like the feeling of them did. The feeling that they resonated out. I couldn't repeat the lyrics necessarily, but the feeling they gave me stuck with me for a while. And this is one of those movies that I didn't know a lot about Jonathan Larson going into this. I wasn't familiar with his story or his untimely death or anything like that, but coming out of this made me want to learn everything about him that I could. And it's one that I will return to. Certainly, it's very heartfelt. And Andrew Garfield, as much as I want Will Smith to win an Oscar this year for King Richard, there is a little bit of concern Andrew Garfield might sneak in and take it away because that's how good he is in this. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, even if you're not a fan of musicals, this isn't your typical song and dance, kind of cheesy with a knowing grin type musical. It is it's credible in a way I can't quite describe, and I really enjoyed it and really think even if you're not a fan of musicals in general, you might appreciate Tick, Tick, Boom, so check it out. It's my number 2 film of the year. Number 1, speaking of animated movies, I've never had a number 1 film of the year, one of my favorites of the year that was an animated film, but this year, I saw this very early in the year. It's called The Mitchells vs. the Machines. It's also on Netflix now or on DVD or VOD or however you'd like to see it. Whatever it takes, just see it. It's a great movie, not just for the family, but it is... It's one of those ones from Sony Animation. Like in the Spider-Verse movie, the animation style is very unique here, very singular. It's pushing itself to be something fresh and different. And it's a road trip movie combined with some crazy elements about robots taking over and everything like that. But of course, those are used to tell a much deeper personal story about a father and a daughter's relationship and kind of that transitional period in letting them grow up, letting go of them, while still letting them know that you're there for them whenever they need you. And it's just really heartwarming. It's really well done. I loved every minute of it and can't tell you how many times we've watched it. Anyways, thank you for watching. Let me know your top 10. These are just 10 movies that hit me in a specific way this year. There were a ton more movies I would have loved to have highlighted. But let me know your top 10. Let me know what some of the best stuff, some of your favorite stuff that you saw this year was. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Certainly hit the notification bell, the like button on all these videos. That helps us reach more people, get more views, all that good stuff. We plan on doing a lot of stuff, a lot of cool things, a lot of new things in 2022. So appreciate you staying with us this year, and look forward to talking with you next year, talking about movies next year. Have a good one. Happy New Year. We'll see you then. Peace.